Hello guys, in this class, we're going to be discussing the respiratory system. And of course, this will be our lesson 1. So respiratory system, this is lesson 1. Now, for us to start the course, I would like to lay some foundation. Now, I'll start by telling you that the body needs energy to carry out some basic functions. Such functions has to do with contraction of muscles. There is need for energy. For nerve impulses to work, there is need for energy. For digestion, there is need for energy. Are you seeing that? So, the body constantly needs energy to carry out its metabolic activities. The question is, how will this energy be generated? When food is oxidized, that means when food combines with oxygen, that means it is oxidized, it is now broken down to release CO2, water, and chemical energy. This energy is what is needed to carry out various activities on the body. So for this energy to be released, there is need for oxygen. Now, when we study the oxidation of food to release carbon dioxide, CO2, water, and chemical energy, you are doing what? Respiration. Just a simple concept. Now, what are the things we need to know in this class? First, we're expected to know respiration and the types of respiration, be it cellular, be it external respiration. We're going to talk about that. And their first question, we're expected to know the various respiratory structure in plants and animals. Or what are the respiratory structures in plants? What are the respiratory structures in animals? And their past questions. And we're expected to know respiration in man. We're going to treat the lungs, treat the respiratory pathway in man. We'll now go further to talk about cellular respiration, talking about your anaerobic respiration and your aerobic respiration. Do you understand? All these things will be treated and covered with their word with their past question. First, let's introduce ourselves with respiration and the types. Of course, we already defined respiration. We said that respiration is the oxidation of food. When we break food substances in the cell, especially in the mitochondria, to release chemical energy, that's in the form of ATP, to release CO2, that's carbon dioxide, and water, we are saying respiration has taken place. It is the oxidation of food substance. We are breaking. What we need is this chemical energy. So, when food substances is oxidized, that means they react with oxygen to release energy, CO2, and water. We are doing what? Respiration. This is the chemical what? Well, this is the equation. You can see this is glucose. C6H12O6 is combining with oxygen. Are you seeing that? That's how we said it is the oxidation of food. This is oxygen, this is food. So the oxidation of food to release, well, this is CO2, this is water, and what? Energy. And we need this energy to carry out our activities. Everybody watch respiration. Respiration is the oxidation of food substance in cell to release energy, CO2, and water. Just remember this formula. When oxygen combines with food, that means oxidation of food to release CO2, oxygen, and water is what? Respiration. Do you understand that? I hope the explanation is very clear. Why do we need energy? Say that energy is needed to carry out contraction of what? Of muscles for movement. For your muscles to move, you need what? Energy. There is need for what? Energy. Energy is needed for the transmission of nerve impulses. For nerve impulses to give information, to carry out the activities in the body, there is need for energy. Number 3, for growth and division of cells. Of course, when cells go to a particular side, they divide. For example, we know that red blood cells take 120 days, another new red blood cells is produced, erythropoiesis starts, and new red blood cells are produced. For this to occur, there is need for energy. Synthetics of what? Food substances such as proteins, such as enzymes, there is need for what? For energy. For synthesis to take place, there is need for energy. For transport of substance in and out of the what? Of the cell, there is need for what? There is need for what? For energy. And take as well for regulation of body temperature, that's homeostasis. Even in bird and mammals, there is need for energy. So we need energy to generate a lot of activities. The body need energy for the body to work. That's why most times when there's no food or there's no oxygen in a place, if there's no food in the body, you start to feel dizziness, weakness, or you go to a place where there's no oxygen, you can't take in air, you start to feel weak, you start to feel dizziness. Why? Because this oxygen is needed for food to be oxidized and for energy to the water to be released. Are you seeing that? So the oxidation of food substances in the cells to release CO2, water, and energy is what you call respiration. Do you understand that? Now take note that every respiration have respiratory surface. Where does respiration occur? It occurs in respiratory surface. Where does football occur? It occurs in football pitch. And every football pitch has some particular feature. That is why respiration takes place in respiratory surface. And every respiratory surface have some unique feature. Now, since we have talked about the uses of energy, now what are now the types of respiration? Take note that they have categorically broadly two types of respiration. We have the external respiration, also called gaseous exchange, also called breathing. We also have the internal respiration, also called your cellular respiration or your tissue wall respiration. I'm going to explain them one after the other. So types of respiration, number one, we have the external respiration, also called your gaseous exchange or breathing. And number two, we have your cellular respiration, also called internal or tissue respiration. Everybody, what are the types of respiration? We have the external respiration, also called the gaseous exchange, and the cellular respiration, also called internal or tissue respiration. Do you understand? Practically now, if you say you understand that, what are now the external respiration? We say external respiration is also called your gaseous exchange or breathing. We said it is the exchange of gases, that is oxygen and CO2, between the environment and respiratory surface. Hold on. It is the exchange of gases between the environment. So when you do, and the oxygen goes in to the lungs and returns back, it is what you call your external respiration. Understand that it is the respiration between the environment and the respiratory structures. Respiratory structures, so that's your lungs, your gills, and your skin. In other words, the external respiration, we are checking how the respiration goes in and comes out. Is different from internal. In internal respiration, we are now focused on how this energy is being released from the cell. That is why in external respiration, we are focused from the nostrils to the alveolar. But in internal respiration, we are focused in the cell. We are in the cell, we are focused in the mitochondria. So internal respiration or cellular respiration focus on the cell, that's mitochondria. How does this exchange of gases now take place in the cell? But external respiration, we are focused on how oxygen enters the nostrils and goes to the lungs and comes out back. For fish, it goes from the mouth to the gills and comes out through the upper colon. Do you understand that? Take note that external respiration is by diffusion. This occurs by diffusion across respiratory surfaces. We are going to talk about what are respiratory surface. Are you seeing that? Take note that this external respiration are now divided into two. Now, let's first of all explain this. Now, this is our external. When we say external respiration, what do we mean? Now, in external respiration, oxygen goes in through the nose, right? This is in nasal cavity. From the nose, it goes to the pharynx. From the pharynx, it comes to the larynx. And from the larynx, it goes to the trachea. Are you seeing that? From the trachea, it goes to the bronchi. This is the bronchi. This is the trachea. This is what we call the bronchi. Are you seeing that? We now have the left bronchi, the right bronchi. From the bronchi, look at it, these are the bronchi. And from the bronchi, it's now go to what we call small bronchi, called the bronchiolus. From the bronchiolus, it now go to this sac called the alveolar sac. Inside the alveolar sac is the alveolar. In other words, what we are saying in external respiration, this is when gases move. Permit me to rule from this point. Are you seeing that? It gets to the lungs and it now gets to the alveolar and it ends. Are you seeing that? Now, when we now talk about internal respiration, we're now focused on what now happens inside the alveolar. Inside the alveolar, we are going to be focused on the cells, where exchange of gases now will take place. How does this exchange take place? Are you seeing that in external respiration, we are focused from how oxygen goes in and carbon dioxide comes out? But in internal respiration, we are focused on how exchange of gases take place. I'm just stressing this so that you know more about that. Do you understand that? Now, if you say you understand this, now let me also give you another diagram. Take note that this is the atmosphere and this is cells, right? Now, this is when we have high concentration of oxygen, and here we have a low concentration of oxygen. Now, anytime the atmosphere, that's the external environment, has high concentration of oxygen and the cell has low concentration of energy, what happens? Energy, that's oxygen, is going to flow in. There will be flow of what? Oxygen. So let's name here flow of oxygen. Flow of oxygen. Look at it. In the external environment, there's high concentration of oxygen, but inside the cells, there is low oxygen. What happens? Oxygen will flow in. Now, but look at it. If there is low concentration of CO2, low concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere, and we have high concentration of CO2 in the cell, what happens? CO2 is going to flow out. There will be flow, let's say outward flow, outward flow of CO2. Are you seeing that? So this is what happened during the external respiration. You take in oxygen and you send out CO2. When you take in oxygen, when there's excess oxygen in the atmosphere, but there's deficient oxygen in the cell, you're going to take in oxygen. Now, when there's excess CO2 in the cell, right? Of course, if there's excess oxygen if there's excess CO2 in the cell, there will be deficient CO2 in the atmosphere. So what happens is that we're going to push the one inside. They must be balanced. Both of them must be at what? Equilibrium. Atmosphere and cell must be at equilibrium. So anytime there's deficient, it is either oxygen is moving in or CO2 is moving what? Out. Do you understand that? It's just a very simple illustration. Now, what are now the types of your external water respiration? Number one, we have the direct external water respiration. This one occurs in lower organisms that are simple organisms that don't have complex structures. They don't have lungs, they don't have gills, they don't have tracheal system. These are simple organisms. So they undergo direct external respiration. I mean, they use their body surface for what? For respiration. Look at this, occurs in simple organisms, e.g. your amoeba, your paramecium, your hydra, your chlamydomonas, simple organisms. Are you seeing that? Oxygen diffuses directly into the cell and CO2 diffuses what? Out. Oxygen diffuses in and CO2 diffuses what? Out. We have what we call the indirect external respiration. This one are found in complex organisms which have specialized structures. Specialized respiratory organs like your lungs, your gills. Are you seeing that? So we explain what external respiration. We said the external respiration is the entry of gases between the environment, right, and respiratory what? Structures, or you say between the environment and the what? And the cells, right? It is called the what? External respiration. Say external respiration is better into two. We have the direct, which is in lower organisms. They don't have complex structure. They don't have respiratory surfaces, so they just take in oxygen and send out what? CO2. Why we now have the indirect, which is indirect external respiration? This occurs in complex organisms where they have respiratory structures. Do you understand? Now, what about now? We have talked about, we said there are two types of respiration. We have the external and we have the internal. What about now the internal? Take note that these ones is also called your cellular respiration, also called your what? Tissue or respiration. So it is the oxidation of glucose, that's oxidation of food, in the mitochondria of cells to release energy, which is ATP, alongside with CO2 and water. In internal respiration, we are focused on the cell. We are in the cell mitochondria. Of course, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, right? Where energy is generated in the form of what? ATP. Are you seeing that? So take note that in internal respiration, we are focused on the mitochondria. Where does the cell takes place? Are you seeing that? External respiration, we are just focused on how gases move in and what move out. But in internal respiration, we are focused on where the gas exchange will take place. Do you understand? We're going to throw more light on your internal respiration. Okay, we're going to talk about your... Hold on a bit very quickly. This class you're watching right now is just one out of a series of classes within the LearnLift app. And guess what? LearnLift is a mobile app, right, where you study intensively as well as extensively. So within the LearnLift app, you can see it very quickly. You have access to all your subjects there. You have your use of English, you have your mathematics, you have your physics, you have your chemistry, you have your biology, you have your JAMB 400. All of them, they are different subjects within the LearnLift app. And of course, you have different topics under every particular subject, and everything has been narrowed down to you, down to the curriculum, with their past questions and everything to the core. And don't forget that within the LearnLift app, you have access to your video lessons.
means where you can start going through your classes uninterrupted. You have access to your notes. Oh yes, your notes well organized, well structured for you, and you are running through all of them. And of course, inside the notes are past questions for you. You have access to your past questions in CBT format where you can go through all of them extensively well. All of it within the LearnLift app for you and more. And guess what? Very important. You want to download the LearnLift app. All you need to just do is head down to Play Store or your App Store and type LearnLift. That's all. Once you type LearnLift, of course, the app is going to pop up for you and you're going to see the logo, and then you download the app and then you follow up on your studies intensively. Before we proceed, let's get back to class. Flow with me. Aerobic, anaerobic, those ones are as we move on further. Now, we have talked about respiratory surfaces, where this is where respiration takes place. Now, every respiratory surface had a particular feature, just like football. Where is football played? Football is played in a football field. Every football field has some features that make it, oh, this is a football field. So respiration takes place in respiratory surface, and every respiratory surface has some characteristics. Well, the first one is that they are light surface area. Now, every respiratory surface must have large surface area where gaseous exchange can take place, because gaseous exchange occurs in light surface area. Large surface area, that means the place must have space for oxygen to diffuse. Number two, thin walls. They must have thin wall, not thick wall, because thin wall permits permeability of gases. Thin wall allow permeability of gases. Thin wall, they allow gases, they reduce diffusion distance, so diffusion can easily take place. Number three, moist surface. Are you seeing? I want to talk about moist surface. We talk about what dissolved gases. Moist surface. So the surface must be moist, so that gases can easily move in. They are not dry surfaces. They must have fluid. Are you seeing? A respiratory surface must have fluid. Permeability. They allow gases to pass through. Gases can come in, gases can go out, to call that your permeability. You have ventilation for fresh air or for water supply. The ventilation, this occurs for fresh air and so respiratory surface must allow must permit water and gases to move in. Are you seeing that they must have good ventilation? And number six, transport. Respiratory surface must be able to transport or carry blood, must be able to carry gases, because most times your gases are embedded in blood. Do you understand? Those are the features. You just need to know this. Nothing serious about them. Know that they have large surface area. Note in as far as your respiratory surface, you must have large surface area. In as far as your respiratory surface, you must have thin wall. In as far as your respiratory surface, you must have a moist surface. It must be permeable to gases. You must have good ventilation. It must allow for transport. Now, if you still understand this, let's not talk about respiration proper. Let's not talk about respiratory surfaces, respiratory organs. What are the respiratory organs and surfaces in organisms? Now we're going to talk about plants and animal. In plant, we're going to focus about what does plant use in respiration. We'll talk about your stomata, talk about your lenticels, talk about your intercellular space. Look at it. We're going to talk about in plants. We'll talk about your stomata. We'll talk about your lenticels. We'll talk about your intercellular space. Why I want to talk about respiration in animals now, we have it now depends whether they vertebrates on invertebrates. We are going to treat them one after the other. Invertebrates, of course, you know the piscina. Yeah, talking about your protozoa, your coleoterata, your plantiemites, your nematoda, your annelida, your mollusca, your arthropod, and your echinocera. Don't forget that arthropods are insects, while your mollusk are your snail. So insect is more advanced than snail. Are you seeing that? So you should be able to know your protozoa, examples of protozoa, right? Your amoeba, paramecium, while your coleoterata, your hydra, your plantiemite, your flatworm, your nematoda, tapeworm, right? Your annelid, your mollusk, and the rest. Do you understand? Why? For your vertebrate, we have your param, which is your pisces, your amphibians, your reptiles, your apes, your mammals. Do you understand that? Let's start with the first one. Multicellular and unicellular organism. Multicellular and unicellular organism, they use cell membrane. What I say, some unicellular and multicellular organisms respire with their cell membrane or body surface by diffusion. Why is this so? Because these organisms, they are not well developed. We'll talk about it. That's what we talk about your direct external respiration. They don't have
complex structures. So they respire by their cell membrane or by their body surface, by their tissue. Are you seeing that? Example of such organism, we have your what? Your amoeba, your paramecium, etc. While for multicellular organism too, some of them don't have complex cellular respiratory structures. Example is your what? Your Spirogyra, your what? Hydra. And I explain the reason. They carry out direct respiration, and this is because they don't have special respiratory what? System. So they ask you what is the respiratory surface for your amoeba, your paramecium, is by simple diffusion through their what? Their cell membrane or body surface. Why? Because they don't have specialized respiratory system. This is your amoeba, this is your chlamydomonas. These are all unicellular organisms. They carry out direct what? Respiration by diffusion. Do you understand that? Let's now talk about insects. Respiration in insects is via your what? Your tracheal system. What are the insects? We have your grasshopper, we have your cockroach, we have your, and so on and so forth. There are a lot of insects. So look at it, guys. This system of respiration is called the tracheal system, right? Insects use tracheal system. This system of respiration includes, number one, we have the spiracles, to the trachea, to the tracheolus, and to the what? Tissues. Now look at it. In insects, majorly like your grasshopper, in their thoracic segment, if you catch a grasshopper, turn it upside down, you see holes. Those holes are called spiracles. In their thorax, they have about 3 holes. While in their abdomen, they have about 8 holes. Those holes allow oxygen. Those holes are called your what? Your spiracles. They are similar to stomata of plants. Stomata of plants to allow air to move in. So these spiracles, air enter through the spiracles. From the spiracles is go to the tracheas. From the tracheas is go to the tracheolus. From the tracheolus toward the tissue. So this is their pathway. We say spiracles open to air. So air enters through the spiracles. From the spiracles it goes to the trachea. From the trachea to the tracheolus. And from the tracheolus, gaseous air in your core and goes to the tissues. Do you understand? This is what we call the tracheal system. So if they ask me the tracheal system, then from trachea from spiracles to trachea to tracheolus, tracheolus to tissues. Do you understand that? And we said that oxygen diffuses into the cell and CO2 exits through their spiracles for their their corticals. So it enters through their spiracles and comes out through their their spiracles. But taking that from the spiracles to the trachea to the tracheolus to tissue. Examples of insects: we have your grasshopper, we have your cockroach, we have your housefly, we have your mosquito. All these are insects. They use the tracheal system. Insects use what? Tracheal system. Insects use tracheal. So look at it all eyes in diagram. You can see that these are their spiracles. Are you seeing that? Look at it. Those holes are the spiracles. So it goes from their spiracles. From their spiracles, it now goes to their trachea. From their trachea, it goes to the tracheolus. This tracheolus have fluid called the tracheal fluid. Are you seeing that? And from there, it goes to the muscle. That's how we say from spiracles to trachea, trachea to tracheolus, tracheolus to stick tissue. And when they are done, CO2 now still come out to the the spiracles. Are you seeing that? CO2 is still come out to the the spiracle. This is what called the tracheal system. Do you understand that? Let's see 1 or 2 past question. JAMB 1982 question 14. Grasshopper respire by what? Grasshopper what? Option A say lung book, gills, lungs, and trachea tubules. What does they respire? They respire by what? God bless. The answer is your trachea tubules. We start from spiracles to trachea, trachea to tracheolus, tracheolus to tissue, making option D to become the answer. Right? Do you understand? Let's now talk about your spider. Spider, they respire by long books. Take note that of course they are insects too, but they respire by by long. Now spider, long book are specialized respiratory structure found in arachnids, especially spider and scorpion. So spider and scorpion, they respire by by long books. So if they ask you long books, that long books or you say long book, they respire by your by look at it. This is your spider, they respire by by long. You see constant past question. Now if you say you understand that, let's not talk about your snail. Rocketopole, they respire by the help of the mantle. Snails are echinoderms, right? So they are echinodermata. So they respire by the help of the mantle. Now in snails, the mantle cavity functions as lung forward for respiration. It has a rich blood supply where oxygen is absorbed and CO2 is released. Stating that other structures of snail include your radula. This one they help for feeding. I'm going to show you the help for feeding. We have your tentacle. This one they help for sensitivity toward the environment. And we have foot forward for movement. But if they ask you what F for respiration is snail, it is the what? Is the mantle. That's the mantle what? Cavity. Do you understand? All eyes on the diagram. You can see from this diagram that this is a snail. You can see the head, the body. These are the tentacles. Now this is the tentacles. This is the what? The mantle. The mantle F for what? For respiration, right? The mantle F for respiration, and this is their what? Foot. So let's see, come here. This is the radula. The radula help for what? For feeding. You can see that it is connected to the what? The digestive gland. Look at it. So the radula help for feeding. Why? These are the tentacles for sensitivity. And what again? Their foot help for. These ones are their foot. They help for what? Movement. Or they ask you what help for respiration. Tell them is the what? Mantle. Do you understand that? Quickly, let's see past question. JAMB 1988 question 3. Long book is used for dash in respiration. Who uses long book? A spider, B said insect, C said millipede, and D said snails. Of course, I would say spider or scorpion use what? Long look. So what become the answer? Option A become the answer. Option A become the what? Answer. Quickly, option A becomes the what? Answer. Quickly, let's just be taking past question. JAMB 1991 question 2. The respiratory organ in land snail. Land snail use what? Option A, say radula, mantle, tentacle, foot. What? F forward for respiration. Of course, what's the answer? Mantle. Mantle, F forward for respiration. Radula, F for feeding, right? Tentacles for sensitivity. And this for foot. So making option B to become the what? The answer. Let's now go to gills. Respiration in what? In gills. Take note that your fish, your tadpole, your mollusk, which are your snails. Are you seeing that? Crustaceans. Now I want to talk about snail. We are being specific. Are you seeing land snail? That's what land snail uses word mantle, right? We'll talk about mantle. Now your crustacea, that's your crab. Crab, they possess gills for what? For gaseous oxygen. So your fish, your tadpoles, aquatic organisms though, they use what? Gills for what? For respiration. These are all aquatic organisms, so they use gills for what? Respiration. Look at it. Now inside gills, we are now focused on fish. Are you seeing that? Now fourth, in fish, we have 4 gills per side covered by what? Operculum. Now, what's the respiration in gills? Take note that they respire through water enter into their mouth. From their mouth, it goes to the gills, and during the gills rack takes in the food out of it, and exchange of gases take place, and the remaining oxygen is pushed out through the what? Operculum. So, water flows in to the mouth through the gills filament. Oxygen diffuses into the blood, and CO2 diffuses out into the what? Into the water. So take note, no nostrils. Nostrils is not used for breathing in what? In fish. They have a pattern in which oxygen what? Goes. What is the pattern? Water enters through the mouth. From it goes to the gills, where there's exchange of what? Oxygen diffuses into the blood, and CO2 diffuses out, and the water comes out through the what? Operculum. So in nutshell, it is mouth to gills, gills to operculum, mouth to gills, gills to what? To operculum. Look at it. Water flows into the mouth and it goes to the gills. And these are the arch. These are the gills. And within the gills, oxygen diffuses out and CO2 diffuses in, and the CO2 is pushed out to the what? Operculum. So water to gills, gills to operculum. Very simple word structure. Now, take note that they have gills raca. They can ask you, gills raca are comb-like structure in the gills. They do not participate in what? In respiration. What do? They help to what? To filter food. Those gills raca, they are like filters. They help to filter food. Are you seeing that? And they prevent debris or food from damaging or clogging the what? The gills filament using what? Respiration. So gills raca, they ask you, they do not take part in what? In respiration. They help to what? Filter food. Let me show you your gills raca. You can see these are your gills raca. These are your gills arch. These are your gills filament. These are the filaments. Why? These are the gills. We said they have to what? To filter what? Food. Do you understand that? So attached to each gill filament, is a what? Is an arch and a what? And a raca. This raca does not take part in what? In respiration. Do you understand? Let's take past question. JAMB 1981 question 22. What is the name of the respiratory organ in crab? Crab. Yes, you can tell me. Option A say tubule, C say spiracles. D talk about this. Of course, we said crab. They use what? Gills for what? For their crustaceans. So they use gills for what? For respiration. Making option D to become the word answer. Let's see past questions. JAMB 2018 question 17. The function of gills in tilapia is gills. Gills, what is the function of gills? Gills in tilapia. Of course, A say gaseous, A say B say osmotic regulation, C say excretion, D say transport. Everybody, what is the function of gills? Gills F for what? For gaseous what? Exchange. Making option A to become the answer. Quickly, let's see more questions. JAMB 1982 question 27. When an operculate in fish breathes, it takes in water through how in fish, how does oxygen move? Option A say mouth and passes. That means what? When an operculate fish breathes, it takes in water through the mouth and passes out through the same route. Does water pass through the same route? Option B say mouth and comes out through the operculum. C say operculum and comes out through the mouth, and D say operculum and comes out through the nose. Everybody, how does fish take in water? They take in water through the mouth and it comes out through the word operculum. Which option is that? Option B becomes the word answer. So they go through the mouth and comes out through the word operculum. So quickly, if you say you understand that, let's take more past questions. We're told JAMB 1991 question 15. The gill racker in fish take part in what's the function of gill racker? A, feeding, B, respiration, C, swimming, D, diffusion. Was we say gill racker, they don't have any business with respiration. What they have asked or call for what? For feeding, right? So they have to select food for feeding, making option A to become the word answer. Let's take more past questions in on that. JAMB 2011 question 22. The sequence of gaseous exchange mechanism in fish. What's the sequence? Of course, we already said I enters through the mouth to the gills, from that gills to the word operculum. Let's see mouth to operculum gills. Mouth, gills, operculum, operculum, gills, mouth. What's your answer? The answer becomes what? Mouth to gills to operculum, making option D to become the word answer. Very, very words simple. Now, if you say you understand that, let's now talk about your words amphibians. We're going to discuss that in the next class. I don't want this class to be too lengthy. We're going to talk about amphibians, talk about plants in the next class. Treat all their past questions. I'll see you in that class, but for now.
This class you just finished watching, of course, is brought to you by what? By the LearnLift app. Oh yes. And within the LearnLift app, you have access to all your classes from the beginning to the end. Everything is well organized for you. Every singular subject, every singular topic followed in line directly with your syllabus and your curriculum. And of course, can I tell you something lovely about the LearnLift app? Oh, this is the sweet part of it. You have access to your JAMB classes within the LearnLift app. You have access to your WAEC, your NECO, your GC classes. You have access to your post-UTME classes. And that's not all. Of course, for your secondary school, you have access to your secondary school classes, whether SS1, SS2, SS3. You have access to your classes directly. And of course, if you're in the university, you have access to your 100 level as well as 200 level classes, all within the LearnLift app. And of course, your 200 level classes are for medical students. All of them are there, well structured and highly organized for you. But please, before you proceed, just head down to your Play Store or your App Store and just type what? LearnLift. Immediately you type LearnLift, of course, the app is going to pop up for you and you download the app and then you start learning immediately. And also very quickly, all you're going to do is that in the description of this video or in the comment section, just open it. You see the link to our WhatsApp channel. Click on it and you are in the WhatsApp channel already, where I'm going to be dropping information every blessed day on a regular basis. And also very important, if you want to reach out to LearnLift, this is LearnLift contact, any of the two, right? Just copy it down and then WhatsApp us, right? Either you send WhatsApp message or you put a call across to us and all of that, and we're going to attend to you immediately. Guess what? I'll see you in the next chapter. For the now, peace out. Bye.